I'm Srilata Shankar. In our Leadership Talk series, in collaboration with MyStartupTV, my guest today is Ami Ganatra. It's indeed an honor and privilege to have you as my guest. A little introduction about her. She's I am alumni. She's an author, a voluminous author. She's written about 3 books, and the 4th book is in publication. She's also a wonderful speaker, and I've had the opportunity to hear her speaking twice in my sister's Ramayana Kalpavriksha. Ami, wonderful to have you. Welcome to my Leadership Talk series, and it's a privilege to have you as my guest. To start with, you're an alumni student of IMA, management student, and then today you're an amazing speaker, author, and many other facets of yours. What took you from corporate life to being a speaker and also, going and speaking a lot about our itihasa?
Srilataji, it's been, I always say, it's been a stroke of luck. I always say it's Krishna Krupa, it's Krishna's will that this has happened. Because I did not plan it this way. I had a lot of interest in the scriptures. I was studying them. I used to live in Hong Kong, where I started picking up Sanskrit once again. Cool, but I started learning again. But that was all out of my interest. And then in 2020, something happened, and I used to blog a lot. So then I got a request to write something, and then one thing led to another. So all this just panned out. It was as if the universe was conspiring to make it happen. And I must say that in that, a lot of people think that, oh, this is very different from my consulting life. In terms of, yes, corporate culture, yes, it's different. But I think in terms of skill set, I am grateful for my 15 years of corporate life, the consulting, because it helped me think clearly, talk clearly, write clearly, because in consulting, especially in corporate consulting, business consulting, there is a lot of emphasis on defining your arguments clearly and defining your solutions very clearly. So I think all those skills have played a part.
I completely agree with you. Being in the corporate world for the last 20 plus years, I understand where you come from and what you're saying. To quickly move on to the Ramayana aspect. For the audience, I wanted to do a 1-hour show, but lack of time, paucity of time. So we'll do 2 episodes. One is today will cover Ramayana, and the second episode will cover Mahabharata. She has written 3 books, 1 on Ramayana and 2 on Mahabharata. So Ramayana, for you as an individual, as a leader, and as a speaker who speaks a lot on Ramayana and our itihasas, my first question to you is, when Dashratha was forced, I would like to use the word of force, to send Rama to the Vanvas for 14 years, what were his thought process as a king, as a father, and as a leader?
So I'm going to give a little bit of a nuanced answer to this, because usually it is shown as if Dashrath had no other option but to listen to Kaikeyi, right? I don't completely agree with that. Kaikeyi reminded him of his vows, of the Vardhan he had given Kaikeyi, right? But the way, Srilataji, the whole thing has panned out, it is not simply because of these 2 Vardhans that he had given her. If you see the whole dynamics of Dashrath with his wives, I think that clarifies, or that clears, or rather that gives a good insight into his own mind at that point in time. It is very clear from Mahabharata, from Ramayana, and all that I'm speaking about is from Valmiki Ramayana. I think it's very, very important to emphasize that. Valmiki Ramayana is itihas, and all that I'm speaking of is from Valmiki Ramayana. It is very evident that Dashrath had a bias towards Kaikeyi. So much so that he ended up neglecting his other wives. He ended up not even treating them well. And that led to Kaikeyi becoming a lot more arrogant, because she knew the power she held on the king. She knew that she could get the king to dance on her instructions. And that is why she had the audacity, if I may, right, to interfere in a decision making of the kingdom. We always say that, oh, Dashrath was oath bound. But Dashrath was also oath bound to his people who had chosen Sri Ram. It was not as if Dashrath decided one day and made Sri Ram the Raja. That was not how it was. Dashrath had chosen Sri Ram after a discussion and consensus building with his people. So he was oath bound also towards the people, right? But the fact that Kaikeyi thought she could use this moment, this opportunity to get her way, shows the dynamics and shows the power dynamics between Kaikeyi and Dashrath, right? So at that point, he was just not thinking like a Raja. He was only thinking like a husband who was helpless because he had given his word to his queen, and that's it. He was not thinking about his role as husband to the other wives. Of course, he was feeling bad that he had asked his son to go away. Yeah. There also, what he says is, okay, if you want Bharat to become the Raja, that's fine. I will make Bharat the Raja. Just don't let Ram go. Right? That is not the point. You were oath bound towards your people. Your people also wanted Ram, right? So at that point, he was only thinking like a helpless husband. And that's how he took his decision.
My second question is Manthara, who kind of influenced Kaikeyi to make that decision of asking Rama not to be the king. Do you think Manthara had this foresight of wanting to send away Rama to the Vanvas and ensuring that he kills Ravana in future?
Sridharji, see, I'll give an example of a corporate here. Yeah, we have employees at different levels, right? We have fresh joinees who have just come in 6 months into the business. There are others who literally own the business, who have lived all their life in the business, right? Wouldn't the interest of the business be different for these two people, right? A fresher, or probably somebody who's very low down there in the hierarchy, his interest is not going to be aligned with that of the CEO. That person's interest will be the interest of his immediate leader, of his immediate boss, right? Who was Manthara's boss? Kaikeyi. Simple. What was Manthara's concern? That my Rani should always be happy, right? Manthara had accompanied Kaikeyi all the way from Kaikeyi when she got married. Yeah, she had seen Kaikeyi grow up. So for her world was Kaikeyi and nothing beyond that, right? In her mind, she was thinking that, oh, the Raja always pampers my queen. Yeah, he always comes to her. He always behaves as if he loves her. But now when he had to take the decision, he's taking the side of the elder queen, right? So you think of it from Manthara's perspective. For her, Kaikeyi was the only thing that mattered. And within that limited buddhi, she did what she did. But what about Kaikeyi? Kaikeyi was not just the wife, nor just the mother. She was also the Rani. It was her responsibility also to take care of the kingdom, to ensure right decisions happen in the kingdom, right? And not take it down the line of destruction. Of course, that was anyways not going to happen, but still. So Manthara did what she thought was the right thing to do for the only person that mattered to her. So I don't believe she had any foresight or she wanted to destroy Dashrath or anything like that. Not at all. She only wanted that her queen shouldn't lose out. Yeah, that was the only concern, and she was behaving accordingly.
Moving on to these Sampati and Jatayu, can you please throw light on both the characters and how Jatayu was more famous, or for want of better words, famous than Sampati, and what was their relation?
It is just about the role they played in that epic, in the itihas, right? So Jatayu calls himself as the friend of Dashrath when he meets Sri Ram in Janasthana near Panchvati. And Sampati, he is the brother of Jatayu, but they had lost contact years ago. Why? I think something had happened and Sampati was trying to protect Jatayu. And in that, his wing got burned. And he was stuck and he couldn't find out where Jatayu went. And Jatayu had then already left by then. And then Jatayu had settled probably in Janasthan. That is where he met Sri Ram. Now, what was the role Jatayu played in Ramayana? He was the one who was an eyewitness, the only eyewitness to Sitaji being kidnapped by Ravan. He tried to save her, right? Of course, Ravan was too strong for him. So Ravan still kidnapped Sitama. But it was through Jatayu that Sri Ram at least got to know what had happened. Otherwise, they had no idea. They would have never known that what happened, right? So he ensured, he was that anchor in Ramayana who ensured that Sri Ram was shown the right direction, that nimitta. The same thing is what Sampati also did. Yeah, the same thing is what Sampati did. So they were brothers, they were separated by circumstances, but eventually life so turned out that they played the same nimitta role. When the Sugriv sends Vanaras to different directions, there is one which goes to south, which includes Hanumanji and Angad and Jambavant and all these people. So when they reach the seashore, they are now stuck because they don't know where to go, right? They knew that probably she's somewhere in Lanka, but where is Lanka? That also they didn't know. It was like an impasse. At that time, Sampati overhears, because he's sitting on one of the mountain tops by the beach, and he overhears these Vanaras talking about Sri Ram and Sitaji and all that, and he hears the name Jatayu there. And he's like, oh, Jatayu, that's my brother, and he wants to know more, so he inquires, and they tell him. And that's when, of course, he's upset to know that his brother died, but that's when he's like, oh yeah, now I know. I saw this Rakshasa take away a lady. Probably it is her. And because I'm a vulture like Garuda, I can see long distances. And from that, I can tell you that Lanka is 100 yojans away, and I can very well see Sita there. So that is your Gantavya, that is your destination.
I also would like to ask you the relation or correlation of Sugriva and Vayu. Question 1. Question 2 is, people loosely talk about Rama killing Sugriva behind, Rama killing Vayu behind from a tree. So if you can throw light on that, please.
Sugriva and Vali, they are brothers, just like Ram, Lakshmana, Bharata. However, the dynamics between Sugriva and Vali are very different. Once upon a time, it was all fine. Later on, because of some misunderstanding, Vali becomes very much an enemy of Sugriva. He drives Sugriva out of his kingdom, and he's thirsty for his life. He wants his blood, basically. And Sugriva has been trying to run around, he's trying to save himself. Now, not only is Vali trying to kill Sugriva or wanting to kill Sugriva, Vali had forcibly taken away Sugriv's wife, Ruma, while Sugriva was still alive and against the wishes of Ruma. Okay, so in that sense, just like Sri Ram had lost his wife, Ravan had forcibly kidnapped her, and just like he was away from his kingdom, Sugriv was also in exile, away from his kingdom, different circumstances, but same result, and had lost his wife. Vali, who was much stronger, his brother, had forcibly taken away his wife. So both of them were aligned in their sorrow, in their grief at that point in time. And then they have a pact where Sugriv promises to help Sri Ram in finding Sitaji. And Sri Ram promises to help Sugriv get his kingdom back, and most importantly, get his wife back. Now, of course, I can go on and on, but because the time we have is limited, I'll directly come to the second question that you've asked. Yes, Sri Ram killed Vali hiding behind the trees. But the reason is not what is usually explained. A lot of people say that, oh, he did that because Vali had some magical power and all of that. No, there was nothing like that. Sri Ram is very clear why he did what he did. First of all, the struggle, the fight was between Sugriv and Vali. So Sugriv had to be the first one to actually challenge him, right? So that he did. Sri Ram tells Vali, he says, don't complain about how I killed you, because I was not fighting with you. When you are in a war, when you fight, there are rules to follow. But I was not doing that. So please don't even talk about dharma, right or wrong. Because you don't know what is right. You don't know what is dharma. If you had known what is dharma, if you had known righteousness, you would have done exactly what I have done. Why? Because Sri Ram says, you have committed a huge pap, a pap which cannot be forgiven. And I am the representative of Bharat, who's the king of Ayodhya, who's the king of Kausal Desh. We have to punish that adharma. We have to ensure that the criminal is punished. Let me tell you what your crime is. He says, any person who violates his mother, his sister, and the younger brother's wife, because the younger brother is like a son to you. Younger brother's wife is like a daughter to you. She's a daughter-in-law to you. Any man who violates them has committed such a big crime that the Smritis tell us that there is only one punishment for them, and that is Mrityu Danda. So what I have done, in essence, is given you the danda you deserve to get. So don't fret over it now. Accept it. Because if you accept the danda, then your karma will then be negated, the paap that you've done. But if you don't, then the karma will, that paap will still be on you. So accept it and don't fret now. So this is what actually Sri Ram explains to Vali.
The last two questions. As when Rama comes back to Ayodhya, Lakshmana, when sage Dhruva is wanting to meet Rama, and he says that nobody should be allowed to come inside. And Lakshmana, I want you to throw a light on that. And Lakshmana then takes Samadhi. So I want you to throw light on why he was forced to not disturb Rama, and then his Samadhi.
So the way that ending comes is that we are told that Kal is meeting Sri Ram, and they had told Lakshman that nobody should come inside. If anybody disturbs us when we are in discussion, that person will get Mrityu Danda. Okay, that is the situation. Now Durvasa comes, and Durvasa wants to meet Sri Ram, and Lakshman says, no, I can't allow you. And he says, no, if you don't allow me, I will curse all of you. I will curse destruction of what you have to do. So, now there is a Dharma Sankat for Lakshman. If he goes inside, the Mrityu Danda, that is something that Sri Ram had already said. And if he doesn't, then there is Durvasa Rishi's, that I don't want to call it famous, but the anger of Durvasa ji, which actually destroys everything. Hence, he goes inside. Now, he tells Sri Ram that Durvasa ji had come and stuff. Anyways, there is one other point there where Kal, who has come to meet Sri Ram, has basically come to tell Sri Ram that the time for this Leela has now ended. You have done what you need to do. So now you also start planning to return back to Vaikuntha. So Sri Ram is by Vishnu, right? He says, now it's time for you to come back, Vishnu. Your work here is done. Come back to Vaikuntha. So Kal has actually come for that only, right? Now we all need a reason. There will always be a nimitta for this body to go, right? We will all die. Whoever comes in Manushya Avatar will die. There is no other way. Death is the only constant, if I may. Anybody who's born, right?
Absolutely.
So this is how the situation happens. Now, when Lakshman comes in and he explains the situation, Sri Ram actually says, no, what you did was out of good intention, right? You had the good of Ayodhya in mind. So you don't have to leave. I don't want to give you Mrityu Dand at all. But then anyways, it is time for the Leela to end. So Lakshman also has to go. And he says, okay, no, I have to go. And then towards the end, in the beginning, in the Adi Parva, Lakshman is not shown as an avatar of Sheshanag or anything. He's just said a Vishnu Ansh only. But in the end, it is shown that he is the avatar of Shesha, right? So he has to go before Sri Ram comes. He has to go and set up Vaikuntha before Sri Ram comes.
As you and I come from the corporate world, what are these 3 points that any leader can take, or anybody in the corporate world can take lessons from the Ramayana?
I will say that one is, there will be times in life where things don't go according to what you had planned. But that doesn't necessarily mean failure. It means your life is taking you towards a direction which you hadn't thought of. And probably that was the direction meant for you, right? So instead of becoming upset and fighting over something which is looking which is deluding you, accept that destiny sometimes and go ahead and find your life. Second, you have to be smart about things, like the Vali Sugriv case, right? What is right and what is wrong may not be always clear, but your intention has to be. Action might seem gray, but if your intention is right, do what you need to do, because what matters eventually is, especially for a Raja, for a leader, is setting the right precedents in the company, right? And third is teamwork. I don't want to elaborate more on that, maybe at some other time. But the way Sri Ram gets this Vanar Sena, he was not from, he was a very, he comes from a very different place, right? He had nothing, he had no Sena of his own. But the way he got the Vanaras to stand behind him and go and fight the war with the intensity of doing it for somebody, for one of their own, and getting Sitama back, it all eventually boils down to how the leader is and how he makes the teamwork happen. So that's the other thing I would say.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, though it's a short episode. I look forward to having a second episode with you, and we'll speak more on Ramayana and emphasis on Mahabharata. Thank you so much, Ami. It was wonderful talking to you, and thank you for being my guest today.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.